Well, Brian, your maiden voyage in Project M&M, the Mercury Makeover Marquee, man. What do you think of this thing?
Rides like a kitten, but I gotta ask, why are we speeding up and slowing down all the time?
Good question, man. That's why I got you in the car. I'm messing with the brake switch, nothing. I can hit the buttons. I thought it may be sticking, hanging up, beating the steering wheel. I have no cruise control. What good is it to have a cruiser with no cruise control?
You got to have cruise control. Tell you what, let's get it back to the garage. We'll diagnose and repair, show you how to do this today on Tech Garage.
I'm on it. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Now, if you watched any show last season, this car is going to look familiar. You might remember Project M&M, the Mercury Makeover, the Mercury Marquee. I'll tell you what, Brian, I've been driving this thing. I fell in love with it. I love this car. It's a cruiser. Problem? No cruise. Got no cruise control. Can't live with that.
Yeah, well, that's just not acceptable, because I'll tell you what, even you look pretty cool in this car, and we've got to get the cruise control working because we got lunch runs to make.
I'm glad you think so, because I'll tell you what, my daughter won't even ride in it to school. She thinks it's not cool, but it is. I love it. It's a cop car. It's a taxi cab. It's got 50,000 miles. This one's staying in the Gardner collection forever.
It'll absolutely run forever. You get 300,000 miles out of this. But cruise control has been a problem on this particular platform. There's been recalls. There's been TSBs. Sometimes they plunge forward and accelerate when you don't mean to, which you could use with your driving style, but we got to fix it.
I'll tell you what, this one's drive-by-wire. It's a little complex and a little complicated, but we're going to simplify it. For these guys, it's going to be easy, but I'm going to need you to go inside because we're going to run some diagnostic tests.
Got it.
Awesome. Take a look at the graphic right here. We're actually going through a couple of these. The schematics right here, and it's a little intimidating because there's a lot there, but we really don't need it. You can actually get the pin location and the ohms of resistance, and I have them right over here with me, sitting down here. Now what we're looking at the cruise control situation is drive-by-wire. So I went ahead and disconnected the battery. That was the first thing to do. And then if you pull up the first graphic actually shows you the ECM pin locations. That makes it pretty easy. And you can see right there, it's highlighted. Pin 19 is the cruise control reference voltage, and pin 30 is the cruise control signal return. So on the ECM here, I'm just going to disconnect that. And when I pull that wire harness out, and it tells me right up there, it's connector C175. I know it all sounds complex, but relax, it's pretty easy. I just count the terminals over according to this pin right here. So I can see the top one's located right up here. And then what I want to do is I want to be careful. There's a term out there called CPA, and it's not certified public accounted. It's connector position assurance. We want to make sure we don't mess up these pins. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting these little pins on here so I can get in there and not do any damage. So when I plug in it, it's still going to work. So I'm going to go in the pin on the top after I count them over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over to that side, and then I count over on the bottom one. And I get it in those. Now what did that do? Well, it gave me the ohms of resistance. So right here I switch over to ohms of resistance, and we have the value. Now all you really have to do is switch over to the other chart. You can find this. You can find this on the internet or a reputable source. If you can get it from Ford, great, because this is going to show us everything that's going on with the buttons. And I got Bryan inside. And right now it says no switch pressed. That's important because the ohms of resistance on the chart, take a look, it's 3,900 to 4,600 ohms of resistance. So if I look at that right now, we got 4.3, 4,300 ohms. We're in good shape. Bryan, what I need you to do is go ahead and shout out. Let's go through the switch positions and see if they're all working.
All right, very good. Starting with resume.
All right, so he's on resume. Go back to the chart, look at the resume. Resume on the chart showing 1,000 to about 1,100. We're showing 1,114. We're right on the money. Next one, Bryan.
Moving to accelerate.
All right, so on Excel, back to the chart once again, pretty simple. 552 to 648, we're showing 607, which is right on specs, Bryan. Uh-oh.
Great. Decelerate, coast.
Decelerate, which is coast. I'm looking at coast on our chart once again, is 276 to 324. We're showing 303. Bryan, we're right in the money, man. It may not be a switch.
Moving to off.
Off position, it's showing on our chart less than 5 ohms. Oh boy, we got 1.3. Bryan, it may not be a switch, brother. You got any more positions on there?
Yeah, let me hit on.
Hit on.
There it is.
All right, go ahead, hit on.
It's on.
You're pushing on?
I'm pushing on.
Uh-oh. So our on showing we're supposed to be 1,900 to 2,200, and we're sticking to that 4,300, which is no position push.
There's
so
the
we got
problem.
an on switch problem right there.
Yep, sure do.
Absolutely. Now with this one, it's a little complex, but hey, these tests can walk you right through it. All that Bryan has to do now is go in there and take it apart. I'll get a demo set up over here. Bryan, you're on your own, buddy. It needs an on switch. I'll get it from the rockauto.com storeroom.
Very good. All right, thank you. Okay, so if you've ever played the game Operation, you remember trying to get those little tweezers down in there without hitting the wall? Very similar. This is a high-tech operation here. You need an Allen wrench with the long leg going in. There's 4 access holes on the back of this wheel with spring clips. You got to feel it, push it. There's one. I've got the driver's side, left side one's out. Let me push, and there you go. Comes off gently. Now, really important before you do this, make sure the battery, negative cable of the battery is disconnected. We let this discharge for well over 20 minutes now. You really need 10 to let that capacitor drain so you take out all risk of an airbag deployment that you don't want to deal with. Here's the center module. There's the spring clips we had to release. There's the 4 holes. Here's your airbag connectors. Squeeze, gently come up. Take care of these, you don't want to break them. Squeeze, gently come up and out. When you store the airbag module, one more connector here, get it off. Take this airbag module face down so the airbag would explode up if there were to be an accident, down on the passenger side floor, and you're good to go. 2 torque screws. I'm going to get these switches out, but stay with us on Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com.
Well, we're right in the midst of the cruise control problem with Project M&M, but I want to take a look at a couple of cruise control systems, and we can start way back here in the evolution. Actually, Bryan will probably remember this one most. This is an actual transducer. What this does, it actually took the cable in from the speedometer, and it would go out and it would feed and wind the cable right there. And if I flip it over to the back, you can see we were dealing with about 2 connections. Pretty simple, just diagnostics, power in, off, and this guy had to wind it up. You had a problem, well, you basically just push the pedal yourself. You didn't mess with it. Go over to the next system here. This is actually vacuum actuated. We got a little better because we hooked it up to this vacuum diaphragm, which goes in and out right here. And then what we did is on this side, we either applied or reduced vacuum according to the command here from the module. We got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connectors here, so we get it a little more sophisticated, but yet you're probably cruising along, all of a sudden your cruise starts dropping and dropping and dropping. You may have a hole in the diaphragm, or you may have a vacuum issue actually coming over from the motor. That would affect that as well. So what do? We stepped up our game. Electronics. We went over here to the electronic cruise control module. Lost all that cool stuff, but still have a cable going over here that's going to drive the actual throttle. It just winds in and out with the computer command control, pretty bulletproof right here. Use a transducer brake switch right here for on and off, so we can go make sure that we're kicking it on and off with the brake pedal. Now, where are we at today with Project M&M? Right here, drive-by-wire, okay? Seems complex, easy to diagnose, nothing to it. The only thing is, we got a computer in the mix. So what we're looking at is the throttle position right here has an accelerator pedal position sensor. We're kicking that down where we want it. We hit the on switch. What does it do? It tells the computer that's where you want it. Well, the computer simply just comes over here, winds the motor, turns the throttle plate, bam, right there. Wherever you want to put the throttle plate. You want to accel? More throttle plate. You want to decel? Less throttle plate. Other than that, computer's controlling it all. Well, Bryan's hard at work. I'm going to have to cruise over and give him a hand.
So very simple. The on-off switch is clearly the culprit. Very simple to remove it. Just 1 screw, number 4 Torx. Set that out of the way. Now, you got to work this switch. It's just a friction fit. So I'm going to give it a little bit of encouragement with a screwdriver. Here, pull on the top with my left hand, work it. I can feel it coming. There's going to be a connector here on the back. There's the switch. The beautiful thing is, you remember we tested both switches, the path of resistance. You can replace just one of these if you need to. We know the other side was fine due to the validation on the testing. Here's our new one from Rock Auto. Looks identical. Same exact connector. Everything's right. I'm going to reseat this till I hear the click. There you go. Friction fit it, get the tab right down in. Friction fit right down in there. And I'll tell you what, John might actually be able to handle this thing now. Hey John, let's retest this switch and make sure we're good.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, Brian. I mean, we showed the readings before with no switch pushed, and we still have the readings on the meter as 4,323 ohms of resistance. And actually our specs on our graphic, we can go back to that graphic now, and you're looking at it, we're right where we're supposed to be. But remember before we pushed this on switch and it didn't change? Hopefully when you do it this time, Brian, we should be in about 1,900 ohms to 2,200 ohms. Give it a shot.
There it is, it's on.
Look at that. All right, let it go. All right, hit it again.
On.
And now let's just go ahead. What's the other side of the on switch? Is that off?
Off is here?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and verify that just so you
go.
know the whole switch. There, that switch is working in both positions, man. We got cruise control.
Perfect. I'll get this thing buttoned back up. Notice that the airbag connectors are the way they came off, oriented that way. I'm going to make sure we're safe here. We still have the battery disconnected, and I'm going to be done.
Yeah, once we do that, we'll go ahead and reconnect the battery, take it on a test drive. I'm going to have cruise control, man. Project M&M is going to be rolling again, no problem. You know, you notice the actual wires, we took good care of it, that we didn't mess it up. Well, today on Garage Ed, we're going to do the wire repairs. You don't want to miss that. Stick around. There's plenty more Tech Garage presented by rockauto.com right after this message.